When Smaug was slain by Bard the Bowman, the northern lands of Middle-earth were freed from his clutches, and the dwarfs could reclaim their ancient kingdom of Erebor, while men could rebuild the city of Dale. But what if things worked out differently? What if Smaug survived? How would the future of the free people have changed if this great dragon had never been provoked? Hello friends, it's Carl here, and in today's episode we'll be discussing how Smaug's survival might have influenced the events of the Third Age. Before starting this video, I'd like to clarify that the scenario that I'll be discussing can be found in the Unfinished Tales, in a conversation between Gimli and Gandalf, and so it is based on Tolkien's own words. It's also important to note that the scenario assumes that the dwarfs had never tried to reclaim their kingdom, and so Smaug was never roused from his slumber. When Gandalf organized the expedition to reclaim Erebor, one of his reasons for helping the dwarfs was because he was afraid of the growing power of the necromancer in Dol Guldur, and he was certain that Smaug and the necromancer would help each other in the future. And so, if Smaug survived, it's very likely that the White Council wouldn't have attacked Sauron in Dol Guldur, for they would have been too afraid of Smaug coming to his aid. Now when Sauron ruled Dol Guldur, he had already started to make plans and prepare for a great war. Although he planned to eventually return to Mordor, Smaug's defeat caused him to flee Dol Guldur earlier than he had initially intended. In fact, Sauron's original plan was very different, for he had hoped to first attack and defeat the chief strongholds of his enemies in the north, such as Rivendell and Lothlorien, and Smaug would play a crucial role in these attacks. It's possible that throughout this war, an elven archer would have managed to spot Smaug's weak spot in his hide and slay him, though by then he would certainly have caused significant damage to the lands in the north, devastating them. Sauron's army in the north would also have been much larger, for the goblins of the Misty Mountains would have still been strong in number, since they wouldn't have lost a large portion of their force in the Battle of the Five Armies. Sauron's army in Dol Guldur and the goblins of the Misty Mountains would quickly spread throughout the northern lands, for there would be very little to resist them. Since the town of Dale and the kingdom of Erebor were never repopulated, there would only be the elven lands and the dwarfs of the Iron Hills to stand in his way, and according to Gandalf, Sauron would have sent out his armies to reclaim the northern passes in the mountains and re-inhabit the land of Angmar that had once been ruled by the Witch King. Perhaps he would re-establish the fortress of Carn Dûm there, using it as a base of operations to launch his attacks on the northwestern lands in Middle-earth, such as Bree, the Shire, and the lands of the Dúnedain. Occupying Angmar would also allow him to attack the chief strongholds of his enemies from various directions, for the armies of Angmar would attack from the west and the north, while his fortress at Dol Guldur would lead the eastern front. This would put further pressure on the lands of Lothlorien, Rivendell, and Mirkwood by surrounding their strongholds and preventing them from uniting as one large army that could resist Sauron's forces on one front. According to Gandalf, if Sauron had thrown all his power against them, Lothlorien, Rivendell, and Mirkwood would have most likely fallen to his forces. Obviously, in this scenario, Bilbo would have never found the ring, since it most likely would have remained in Gollum's cave. Yet one can't underestimate what a crucial role the Elven lands played in hindering Sauron's plans during the War of the Ring. They offered a place of refuge, a safe haven, an area where Sauron's enemies and those who resisted him could gather and hold council, making plans on how best to face his growing shadow. Without these lands, the Free People would have been less united in a common goal, making it easier for Sauron to overwhelm his enemies. Now, since I mentioned previously that the ring wouldn't be found by Bilbo, it's most likely that the ring would have remained in Gollum's cave, and so Gollum would have probably retrieved it. During the War of the Ring, Sauron summoned evil creatures to Mordor, and Gollum had answered these summons, where he was captured and tortured for information concerning the ring. If Sauron had to do something similar in this scenario, I think Gollum would have answered the summons once again. Perhaps he might have even felt a stronger pull towards Sauron, since he would have been under the ring's influence. If this were the case, I have no doubt that the ring would have fallen back into Sauron's hands, which would have probably eliminated any hope for the Free People to emerge victorious. Now, after the events of The Hobbit, Smaug's defeat allowed the dwarfs to once again reclaim Erebor, while men could rebuild the town of Dale. In fact, during the War of the Ring, Sauron sent out a large force of Easterlings and Orcs to attack the northern regions, and a great battle took place in the town of Dale and outside of Erebor. Though the dwarfs and the men of Dale fought valiantly, they were defeated. Yet some of them managed to retreat back into Erebor, and Sauron's forces were unable to breach this fortress, and so instead they besieged it. If this fortress and town were never reclaimed, they wouldn't have been able to oppose Sauron's forces, and so Sauron's army would have been able to travel past the Misty Mountains into the region known as Eriador, devastating the lands. According to Gandalf, if the forces of Gondor and Rohan managed to repel Sauron's forces in the south, they would have most likely found the northern lands in ruin and desolation, a sad reminder of what they once were. Considering all of this, I think we have to give credit to Gandalf for his foresight in seeing the importance of Smaug's defeat, cause by doing so, he significantly influenced the future of the northern lands of Middle-earth. Anyway friends, this wraps up today's video and I hope you enjoyed it. It's a bit shorter than I had hoped, but as always I like to focus on what Tolkien told us and minimize my own speculation, as I feel it's a pure interpretation and explanation of his works. As always, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe to join our fellowship today. If you're interested, check out our Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, Discord, and Loot Crate partnership links in the video description. I hope to see you all in my next video, where together we'll once again explore the magical world and lore of Middle-earth.